I hear Doc McStuffins in the background, which means that's what my daughter is watching. Welcome to the Sunshine State Happy Hour, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com. I am your host and author, Dave, and today we are as far away from our home base in Florida as we can possibly get and still stay in the continental United States. Going to Seattle, Washington, and Kendall Jones, owner of, Washington Beer Blog, Washington Beer Pod. You're on several radio shows.
Yeah, and I do
everything.
I'm freelance. I write for some magazines and stuff too, occasionally.
Gosh, and you also have the best beer blog Twitter handle ever, which is literally just beer blog.
Yeah,
and that's just not fair.
It's well, I'm an early adopter. As an early adopter, I used to, before in my previous life, I was pretty deep into the world of technology, so I was an early adopter on some of these things. And yeah, beer blog, the one that I regret is that I could have got Kendall Jones at the time, but I didn't, because at the beginning of Twitter, that seemed very vainglorious to do that kind of thing. But nowadays I would love to have it, and I do have Kendall J though, and Kendall J is Kendall Jones, not Kendall Jenner. And the Kendall Jenner fans of the world sometimes get confused. And I get some interesting direct tweets and stuff.
That's funny.
And they compliment me on what I was wearing last night at the Emmys and stuff like that. Not me.
Oh God. Yeah, it's funny. I'm amazed that I got Florida Beer Blog. So I figured somebody would have captured it, and nobody did. Nobody touched it. Yeah, so it's like
the only reason there's a blog here in Seattle. I live in West Seattle, and in West Seattle we have a very prolific and very well decorated, highly awarded neighborhood blog called the West Seattle Blog, and that's the only reason I named mine the Washington Beer Blog, was because I looked at it and I said I want to have like what that blog is for my neighborhood. I want to have that for the local beer scene. Yeah. So I used the word blog. And then I realized a couple of years later that I was going around, introducing myself as a blogger, and it's like, uh-oh. Nobody wants to talk to a beer blogger.
No,
I should have gone with Washington Beer News.
Hey, you know something? That's yeah. Well, then again, now you can use the term influencer, I would assume.
The thing is, with influencer is, I was on a big press junket a few months ago with a bunch of people who were from as far away as Amsterdam and from Georgia and all over the country, all over the world actually. And it was a big press junket, and we are all sitting around getting drunk, and the term influencer came up, and basically the definition we came up with of whether or not you're an influencer is if you call yourself an influencer, you're not. So if somebody says, "Oh, I'm a social media influencer," that means they're not. If somebody calls you an influencer, there you go. But if you describe yourself as an influencer, that's kind of douchey. But it's up to other people. I guess what I'm saying is it's up to other people to decide whether or not you're an influencer. It's not up to you.
I always determine influencer as you only have an Instagram account and don't have anything that requires actual work to post. So that's just me.
But do influencers need to make money?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, some of them are making money for money for nothing and your chicks for free. Yeah.
Well, I make money for nothing and get my beers for free. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I already got a chick, so
yeah. I have no problems with paying. Sometimes I get something for free, which is great, but I usually pay. So what are you drinking right now? And I'm assuming that you paid for it.
I did. This is from our local brewery here in my neighborhood. Ooh. Future Primitive Brewing. And nice. I'll show you the name of the beer, but I won't say the name of the beer because I don't want to be FCC compliant. This is confusing because I'm backwards, right?
Yeah, I know. It's really hard. Everybody has a problem with it.
There we go.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great beer. It's a great beer from one of my local breweries. It's just FCC rules say that I can't say the name of it on the air. We're not on the air, but I shouldn't say the name of it.
Nice.
But anyway, yeah, Future Primitive is a great brewery here, not too far from my house. And I went, even though we were under complete lockdown here in Washington, we are allowed to get out and do some essential shopping and things. So it's one of the breweries that's kind of along, or I can kind of justify it being along my essential route to do grocery shopping and things like that. So I stopped by Future Primitive the other day, and they just started canning their beer. So I picked up some of that lovely beer. It's a great Pilsner.
Nice. I can say the name of my beer. This is the coffee version of Sea Cow. It's hard. It's really hard because you're like, every movement you make goes the other way.
People should know that it's all backwards here. So
it's really weird. So the coffee Sea Cow milk stout. My wife is looking at me so strangely right now. Love you, sweetie. From Saltwater Brewery, which is nearby in Delray. This is the brewery that everybody kind of retweets once a month because they're the ones that made the 6-pack rings out of their spent grain.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's amazing. They took time to, because a big problem down here in the state of Florida. I'm going to be bringing my co-host Steve on. Steve, how are you?
How's it going, Dave? Sorry, I just
We're doing
walked in the door.
good. That's perfectly fine. I was just telling Kendall, our great host, about the 6-pack rings at Saltwater Brewery. They actually make it out of compressed spent grain because obviously if you have the traditional plastic rings that we all grew up with in the 80s and 90s and 70s and whatever.
Right. It's the sea turtle friendly 6-pack rings.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is edible.
Sea Cow friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have spoken to one of the co-founders at the brewery. He has eaten one of them. It is edible. It's just not very tasty.
Well, I had a grilled cheese sandwich today, and the bread was made out of spent grain, and it was very tasty.
Gotta love that. Steve, really quickly, what are you drinking?
My last virtual happy hour IPA from Gulfstream.
Oh, nice. Yes, I'm getting mine tomorrow, which is nice.
Tomorrow you'll have yours.
Excellent. So basically, how is beer in Washington right now? What's going on? You mentioned the one brewery that you are drinking right now. They're just now starting to can. What have people really started to do to sort of survive in this new normal?
Well, the main thing is everybody's selling beer. I can't say everybody, but most breweries are selling beer to go out of their tap rooms. Growlers and crowlers. Of course, crowlers, the cans are becoming kind of hard to get right now, but the supply will eventually catch up with the demand here.
I've heard that, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and yet it was really unfortunate that, that Ball Corporation, the company that makes all the aluminum cans for the crowlers, they were running low on inventory as this thing hit, and it got worse because they weren't scheduled to make any more until the middle of this month, until now. So that happened like a month ago, and they immediately switched their schedule up and produced more. So they're starting to make it out to the market now. Good. But it's tough. But yeah, so a lot of people are doing growlers and crowler fills. More and more breweries that we have, mobile canning lines. You guys probably have them down there. Companies that just pull the truck up to the brewery and can your beer for you. A lot of people are suddenly, a lot of people had been thinking about getting their beer into cans a few months ago, and now it's like, no, let's get our beer into cans now. So those companies those mobile canning companies are really busy right now, and they're doing a really good job. It's amazing how much beer is suddenly making it into cans. So that's the big thing that people are doing here. And then a lot of people are doing different things where they're like partnering with other businesses, just to create some incentives for people to kind of cross-pollinate people's essential shopping and things like that.
Excellent. And I know there's one brewery, I don't know if you know the details, kind of very interested in it, but they took their cask ale and basically made a box beer, kind of like we have a box wine.
That's Machine House Brewing here in Seattle, and they focus entirely. They generally don't do anything except traditional English style cask ales. So, if you're a person who likes that kind of beer like me, it's like, yeah, I'm really lucky to have that brewery. It's only about 3 miles from my house, so I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah, it's amazing.
They do an outstanding job of it. I mean, I know a lot of cask beer. I've been to England and been in lots of pubs and gone drinking lots of that traditional cask beer. And Machine House is doing as good a job as anybody. It tastes like you're in the old country. And yeah, that was a really cool thing that they just said, we're going to put a bunch of this cask beer into boxes. And in England, that's not that unusual. They do cider that way a lot in England. I don't remember seeing too beer that was done that way, but hell, it's a great idea.
And if it works, right?
Yeah.
Nice. So I was going to say, what other kinds of? It's amazing the breadth of beer that is in Seattle, because you can get away with being one of those places that's just cask. And I've told Steve many times, whenever I'm there, I try to go down to Ballard, and there's just so much going on. You just kind of park your car in front of Reuben's Brews, and I do have to say hello to the team at Reuben's and the amazing Leslie Shore, who was very gracious enough to come on the Florida Beer podcast. That's one of my favorite interviews, so go back and listen to it. But yeah, you just park in front of Reuben's and you boot up Google Maps or something, and it's amazing how many breweries are within maybe a 4-minute walk.
Right. That's the same thing we did like when we were in Asheville. We had the same experience where you just booted up Google and you could just walk in any direction, you're going to hit something good.
Yeah, Ballard these days, I have gone on record as saying that Ballard has the highest density of breweries of any neighborhood in the world. And whenever I say that, I put the challenge out. Prove me wrong. Tell me about a neighborhood in Asheville or Portland or one of the other great beer cities in the world that has, I don't even know how many breweries. I haven't counted since the last two of them opened. I haven't even counted. And there's about to be another one that's about to open. I mean,
jeez.
If the good Lord's willing and the river don't rise any higher than it's already risen, there's going to be another one open. It's amazing. Ballard, it's at Ballard. It's just I don't know what it is. It's just, and they're all doing well. Yeah, they're all making good beer and they're all busy. It's really something else.
Yeah, it's amazing because I know I actually got to see both of the Reuben's tap rooms. I remember the other one that really kind of spoke to me, that it really stood out, was Lucky Envelope. And I know that Steve actually is a big fan of getting the beer shipments, and I think you are getting a couple beers from, if I'm correct, Fremont.
I have one from Fremont already, a 2013. I can't think of the name of it now. It's sitting in my cupboard.
B-Bomb?
B-Bomb.
Bourbon
Yeah.
Bomb?
Yeah, B-Bomb. And the only reason I got it is because it is a 2013. It's aged probably well enough to where it's going to be perfect. Because they were releasing like the 2018 and the 2019. I was like, no, it's a little too young still.
Yeah, Fremont in terms of, it's interesting because I'm talking to you guys, and I was in Florida not too long ago, and I don't know any of your breweries, and you guys any of ours, Funny thing, it's that they're, but then you look at the numbers and you go, well, there's 8,000 breweries in the country, and it's like, how much to know them all, right? I live in Seattle. I've got like 60 something breweries in the city that I live in. I have trouble keeping up with those. Not much less the 400 that we have in the state. So I'm impressed that you guys you're familiar with Fremont. Usually the only one is that people know of outside of the state of Washington or outside of the Pacific Northwest is Elysian, and that's because they got bought by Anheuser, so their beer is kind of across the country in a lot of places.
Every so often I'll see Pike show up on stuff.
Do you ever see Fish Brewing Company?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because their beer gets distributed widely because it was one of the first ones that was organic. So a lot of stores that wanted to have Fish was one of the only ones you could get organic. Anyway, their beer. Pike is just a great brewery, and they're pretty good size. And if you've been to Seattle, if you ever come to Seattle, you should visit the Pike Brewing Company because it's right by the Pike Street Market, and it's a legendary brewery. That brewery has Pike Brewing Company has probably gifted more brewers to the world than any brewery I can think of. There's a long history of it. There's reasons why it ended up that way, but throughout the 90s, they were just growing and consistently pumping brewers out to start their own breweries all over the region.
And that's always the big question because, with so many breweries, you've got like one or two, when you go to any city, you've got one or two that are those incubators. Like that's where you go to start and you work your way up and then you move on. Obviously in Florida, the two big ones are Cigar City out in Tampa. And then Steve and I are lucky enough, we live very close to Funky Buddha.
Right. And they were just bought out recent, 3 years now?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. So it's always interesting to see who the incubators are, and it's never the people that you totally expect it to be. And I remember, I was told that Pike was sort of the big one for the Seattle area, which is really interesting. I will say the other thing that
go ahead.
No, I was going to say I was going to completely change the topic, but we can change it back. The other thing that I found interesting is that I did have to take a ferry from Seattle to, I think Bremerton.
Yeah, Bremerton's across
and even then, they've got their own beers on the ferries, which I didn't quite expect.
Yeah, it took us a while to get that to happen, but there was a lot of pushback from the distributor, of course, who wanted to have they wanted to have Shock Top and Bud Light on the boats, but it took a lot of it was a lot of people working pretty hard actually to just kind of put because the ferry boat system here in Washington is part of our state highway system. Yeah. So the will of the people does have influence. There are damn boats, but are damn beer on them, But it took a while to kind of get that message hammered into them. But now it's really cool. Like you go up to the San Juan Islands, the boats are running around up in the San Juan Islands have San Juan Island Company beer on them, which is, why not?
Right.
It's incredible. That's incredible. Honestly, I was surprised that there was any sort of alcohol on there at all, but what do I know? So as in terms of the blog and the podcast and everything with all the changes that are going on with our temporary new normal, how difficult has it been to create content and push it out? I know with the blog, you're very up to date in sending a lot of updates and information out there. Does that take pretty much all of the time now?
Well, the thing is the what I would normally consider my stream of news is slowing quite a bit because everybody is just, hunkered down, just getting in what they need to do to stay up now. So a lot of what I've most recently is I'm keeping kind of like the list of what all the breweries are doing, what their hours are, what they're, if they have online ordering, if they're doing delivery, what they're doing to fight their way through this. I'm doing everything I can to help those breweries stay alive because it's a scary time, and that it's a scary time for the breweries, which makes it a scary time for me because I am one of the few people I know who actually has a pretty well monetized blog. So when it's a labor of love and it's also partially it's out of necessity, I'll be the first to tell you, my success and the fact that my blog is how I make my living and stuff, and the other things that I do with beer are how I make my living. It's all because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I got into this 11 years ago. At that time, there were just about 100 breweries in the state of Washington. Now there's over 400. So when you say all boats rise, it's like, well, I'm one of those. So, I am tied to this thing, and my success, my growth has only been because of the growth of the industry. So I have a vested interest in making sure that everybody survives. We continue to have this vibrant beer culture around here. So I'm motivated to help these people move their product and do what they need to do to stay alive. And that's what I've been spending most of my time doing the last weeks.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome to hear. What is sort of the beer of Seattle? Does it have a particular style that it really likes to gravitate towards? You go into any place, and more often than not, this is what you're going to find that may be a little out of the ordinary.
I would say that that's tough because we're under the influence, a lot of the same influences as the rest of the country, which means there's a lot of hazy IPA right now.
Yeah, hazy IPA is taking over right now.
Yeah, and that's I understand it's still kind of a news story in a lot of parts of the country, but it's old news here, and it's just, I mean, we have breweries that have opened, and kind of like going, we're going to make hazy IPAs. That's going to be what we do, and so yeah, that's a really big one, and as far as like a style of beer beyond that's really popular around Seattle, that's a little bit tough to pin down. I mean, I can't think that there's one. I mean, like I say, that hazy IPA, just plain straight up West Coast style IPA.
Right.
But definitely an IPA. I mean, you go into a lot of the breweries around here, and they'll have 12 beers on tap, and as many as 6 of them will be IPAs. But that's, what are you going to do? It's what people want to drink.
So obviously we've talked a good deal about Seattle because it is, kind of the big player in Washington State. Seattle notwithstanding, what are some of the other places that are really good and just have a great, maybe not huge, but a great little beer scene going on?
Well, Spokane, of course. Spokane, is one of the larger cities. Got a great beer scene going on there. They're on the other side of the state, so it's a 5-hour drive from Seattle. So they've got like their own kind of beer culture going on, and they've got some really, really good breweries. But the one that I think is really, really interesting is Yakima, because Yakima is where all the hops come from. 75% of the hops grown in the country is Yakima. 25 hops grown in the world come from Yakima. When I say talking the region, the Yakima Valley.
Yeah.
And the breweries over there are doing a real job, and most of them tend to, wear that bad honor about being close to the hop fields. And they're unapologetically hoppy. They enjoy a certain advantage, and they're not afraid to admit it.
Yeah.
Most of the breweries over there in the Yakima area have a lot of the hop industry over there, so they have a lot of people who work in the industry, people who own the farms and stuff are clientele, and it's fun to go over there, and it's a really kind of agrarian community. I don't mean that in terms of like they all live out in farms, but I mean in terms of the farm industry over there is huge.
Yeah.
You go to one of the breweries, you'll see everything from, well-dressed businessmen to, dirty, grungy farmers to, the guys who are actually out picking the stuff. And I love Yakima until I love Yakima. My wife and I are actually thinking about retiring over there. Get me closer to the hops.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That'd be the big one that I would recommend that probably a lot of people around the country haven't heard of, would be go over to Yakima and check out some of those breweries.
Nice. So I will leave you with this question, and Steve, I'm making you go first because you have not answered this question, but we're going to be finishing with this question on every podcast that we're doing. Okay. Obviously, there have been a lot of changes, and a lot of breweries, such as the Machine Works that we had talked about earlier, had to do something a little bit different and something that they don't normally do to get by in these uncertain times. What change have you seen that you hope stays around once we're back to normal?
Ooh. I don't know. It would have to go with something like breweries like Big Bear down here in Coral Springs that never had distribution now have growlers going out. Where before you could only drink that beer if you were at their restaurant. Now I can actually go and get a 32-ounce or 64-ounce growler fill, bring it home, and drink it home.
Kendall, that's similar to the brew that beer that you're drinking right now. They never canned before, but now they're canning.
Yeah.
So.
Right, and that's changing. So there's a lot of breweries that are pumping cans out now that, out of necessity, they had to. And I'm really enjoying the drive-up service. It's really nice.
Yeah, do they have a whole lot of that in Seattle?
Yeah, a lot of curbside.
Curbside.
Yeah.
I just got curbside today. I kind of love it.
I would say
Kendall, what have you seen? Yeah.
The things that I'm going to really, the things that I really like about this is, number one, that more people are getting their product into cans. And hopefully, I don't know if that will mean that if they'll, after this is all done and said, if that means they're going to be better established in the distribution channels or not. I think a lot of people have been in the habit of going to the tap room to drink beer for a long time now. It's been a huge trend in the industry for the last 5-6 years. But maybe more so than they already were, they're getting in the habit of the tap room being the place where you go to get your beer to take home, that you stop by the tap room and grab a couple 6-packs just because you're in the neighborhood. I like that about it. And I also like the idea of delivery. There's a lot of breweries that are figuring out ways, and a lot of these things they're talking about, we're gonna learn in time whether or not they're actually sustainable and if they're actually viable for their business plans and stuff. Yeah. But right now, the idea that I've got a whole bunch of breweries that I can order my beer from and they'll bring it to me is kind of cool. Those are my two favorite things.
Broski Cider Works just started doing home delivery now. Did you see that one?
Interesting. Dave? I did not. It's the home delivery is a little interesting. But then again, a lot of it. Yeah, but then again, a lot of it depends on what you can get away with. What can you do? What can't you do? And unfortunately, every single state is different, and that just becomes a little on the big question side. There's lucky envelope right there on your page, WashingtonBeerBlog.com. Gotta love it. And of course, Rubens. I love Rubens. So excellent. Kendall, thank you so much for participating today. I really do appreciate it. If you are looking for more information, his is the very apt beer blog handle on Twitter, and I truly hate him for that because it is just so simple and beautiful. You can find him at WashingtonBeerBlog.com. You can find him anywhere fine podcasts are found. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're looking for more information, we are at FloridaBeerBlog.com. Florida Beer Podcast is probably found on the same channels that the Washington Beer Pod is found. Tomorrow we're going to be back at 5 p.m. Eastern with our friends from Pittsburgh who are running a beer box. I wish I could. First Sip, that's who that is. I should really take notes when I'm doing these shows, Kendall, thank you so much. I will let Steve know the name of the beer that you're drinking, since we really can't say it on the air because I don't want to flag this for being inappropriate. Steve, check your text messages. You'll find the name.
It's completely appropriate.
It's not. Now. I can't say it. I can't say it. So thank you.
I'm hoping that beer pops up on Taver soon so I can get it.
That would be nice. There we go. One more time. Here we go. Gotta love it. All right, Kendall, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We will see you all tomorrow at 5, and stay safe out there. Drink Florida Craft.
You stay safe too, guys. Take care, buddy.